This is The Toss-Up, where an expert line panel dissects the hottest stories within the world of sports. From some of the nation's strongest college programs right here in Bloomington to the games and moments that capture the world's attention, it's all right here on The Toss-Up. The Indiana women's basketball team is off to perhaps the greatest start in program history. The Hoosiers are 15-3, and those 3 losses were by a combined 14 points. A couple bounces here, a couple calls there, and this team could be undefeated. However, I think I speak for everyone in saying that 15-3 is not a half-bad reality to live with. But it's the middle of January, which is usually where teams start to solidify who they are and try to strengthen their tournament resumes. If Indiana just plays average from this point forward, they should find themselves in the big dance. But for Terry Morin and company, average is just not going to cut it. This was a program heavily on the rise coming into the season, and losing 2 of 3 is not going to slow them down. This team is capable of reaching a level perhaps this program has never seen before. So exactly what is this team made of? How good can it be? Facing adversity in late January, going into the home stretch of the toughest part of your schedule is the only way to find out. Hi everybody, welcome to The Toss-Up. My name is Michael Dugan. Joining me on the panel this week, we have Meredith Struing, Stefan Krajcnik, and Griffin Gonzalez, a pair of IUS TV reporters on the ends and an IDS writer right in the middle. We're ready to talk some IU women's hoops. We're in the thick of things right now. Griffin, I'll start with you. This team, after the opening night of the season, went on an absolute tear and did not look back. At what point did things really start to click?
I think when things really started to click is when you saw the ability of Allie Patberg and what she can do, and all of a sudden the factor of, oh my gosh, we lost Tyra Buss, that worry went away. And Allie Patberg's play this season has been phenomenal. She's been a huge leader on the court. Her intensity, her grit, her ability to shoot the 3, or her ability to drive inside has been something that the Hoosiers could get behind. And I think once you got rid of the, hey, we're gone with Tyra Buss, but now we have more talent as a team, this team really showed their strength.
Yeah, I would actually pinpoint it to when they had that road stretch where they played at Wake Forest for the Big Ten ACC Challenge and then went on the road and played at UCLA. Got wins in both of those. I thought at the start of the season they were winning games, most of them at home, but they weren't really playing strong teams. And then they went on the road at Wake Forest, regardless of how good Wake Forest is. A game against an ACC opponent on the road is going to be tough. And then going to UCLA, a team that's been dominant at home the last few years, regardless of how they've been playing on the road. Those are 2 tough wins that IU came by, and I think that's when we kind of saw that those non-conference wins to start the season were kind of capitalized by those road wins, still non-conference play. But at that point is kind of when I saw that this team had potential to be even better than last year's team that won a WNIT.
Yeah, and I think it was like you said, the first game just kind of snowballed everything on top of that. You know, they started the winning streak and everything, but I think the first game really, it gave fans hope that they needed, because they lost 2 of the biggest names in women's college basketball, Buss and Cahill. And I think the fans needed that hope because they were wary of the freshman team coming in. They needed the hope and the practicality of it to all kind of mesh together. And I think even though they won by 2 points the first game, I think they looked really well.
Yeah, the blueprint was there in the first game, and like you said, it did kind of snowball from there. However, the snowball came to a halt in the last couple of weeks in the middle of conference play. They were not able to start 4-0 in conference play. Griffin, I'll go right back to you here. Still has not happened in program history. They've never gone 4-0 to start conference play. What happened that night in Columbus, and what happened on Wednesday night against Northwestern that kind of took them a half step back a little bit?
You know, it's an old coach cliche, but I feel like, you know, you're either playing your game or you're playing the other teams. And I think over the past few weeks, I feel like the women's team has really been settling for playing the other team's kind of brand of basketball. That and their shooting starts have not been good. Last night versus Northwestern, they started 4 of 26, 3 of those coming from deep. You can't get it done that way when only one of your first 26 shots is coming from inside the paint. And they lost their identity. I think this is a great opportunity. You get to play Purdue on Sunday, but still you got a little break here to kind of reset and try to see what's going on, because otherwise you could slip down a very bad path here.
Yeah, I feel like even in non-conference play, when they were winning games, one thing that they struggled with was turnovers, and then those scoring droughts, kind of like you mentioned at the start of the Northwestern game. And I think in Columbus and then at home against Northwestern, both of those kind of came to bite the team. And, I mean, if you're just going to keep turning the ball over, regardless of whether you're getting wins or not, it's going to come back to get you at some point. I think Terry Moore likes to say that she likes to keep it under 15 turnovers. That number itself is even a little big in my opinion. Maybe 13 is more of a number to aim for. So I think they still have to improve on turning the ball over a little bit less, and then they can start winning more games in conference play.
Yeah, in Columbus, I think a lot of the problems stem from not being able to guard Carmen Grande. It was just kind of a hard game for them, but I think it's easy fixes to go forward to fix. They deflected, OSU deflected a lot of the passes. We're used to the crisp, clean passes of IU women's basketball. They just didn't have them that night. And I think that's an easy thing to fix, you know, the passes, the rebounds, and I'm not worried at all.
And the shooting against Northwestern, it seemed like there was
Right.
lid on the rim for the vast majority of that game. Meredith, right back to you. The centers, Kim Royster and Lindsay Marchese especially, have kind of taken a lesser role this year than I guess some expected given the trajectory of the past couple of years and the role that they would have to fill with Amanda Cahill gone. But how have they still been able to be effective despite their role, statistically speaking at least, going down a little bit?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people look at like what's just on paper and not kind of their leadership roles that they've had. Royster just makes so much room for herself in the paint. You know, throw it to her, she's dependable. I think they struggle a little bit when she's not in, so she's very versatile and reliable, and I think that's what they can count on with her.
Yeah, I think that Alexa Glube just coming in is what's kind of changed all a little bit. I mean, last year it was kind of Royster and Marchese, and that's all you really had at the 5 position. Now with Alexa Glube coming in, not only is she a great player, but she can also stretch the floor and hit a 3, which is something that Royster and Marchese can't do as much. So I wouldn't say that maybe Royster and Marchese have taken a lesser role. There's just been another option that's come in that's made this team more versatile, in my opinion. And I think Glube is a player that can really improve as a freshman going into her sophomore season as well. So Royster and Marchese have been important to the team down low, especially getting offensive boards in certain key games. But I think Glube coming in is what's changed a lot of things.
I'm kind of going to agree with Stefan there, but I'm also going to disagree with Meredith, because I think the biggest problem with this team, and when you look at their past few games, when they do lose or they don't perform well, the issue is Kim Royster's not really involved. Whether that be points or rebounding, she's just not getting involved down low, not getting aggressive. And you saw that at Northwestern last night. Tip balls on the rebound attempt, just not finishing down low was a huge issue last night. When Kim Royster can be good, and Terry Moore said this last week during her press conference, when Kim Royster can be consistent and reliable, this team is unstoppable. But when she isn't and she's unable to kick out, to find a Pat Bordor or Wise, this team can be beat, especially inside when they don't have that interior defense. And I think the other key to what's made this team good is their unselfishness and the ability to share the ball almost to a fault, where they share the ball so much they can't get a shot off.
Yeah, I think one thing that's interesting, we talk about Glube, Marchese, and Royster. Yesterday against Northwestern, or Wednesday night against Northwestern, I should say, they brought in Marchese and Glube in to line up together. It was a small stretch in the game, but that's something that we usually don't see. Is usually just one of them in. So that could be something to look forward to in this season. Maybe trying to get some more boards, just trying to go a little bit bigger at the 4 and the 5 position.
Yeah, definitely.
All fair points. All right, we're going to cut to break here real quick, but coming up after the break, our panel will we're going to look at some of the most valuable pieces on the team, where this team could be vulnerable, and we'll do our lightning round. So stick with us. Welcome back to the Toss-Up. We're talking IU women's basketball, but before we keep going with our conversation, let's toss it to the IU Sports Media Swiss Army knife, Jack Grossman at the media wall. Jack?
Thanks, Michael. Allie Padberg and Brenna Wise have rightfully taken the headlines for a lot of the success the Hoosiers have had this season. Padberg leads Indiana in points, assists, and steals per game and is second on the squad in rebounds per game, as the Notre Dame transfer has done a phenomenal job in filling the Shaq-sized shoes of Tyra Buss. Wise has also had a strong year as she has averaged 13.5 points and 7 rebounds per game. However, with all the headlines Patberg and Wise have received, and let's be clear, they absolutely deserve all of that praise, Jalen Penn has slid under the radar as a result. After a strong start to the season, Penn hit a wall offensively in the middle of December. Against Loyola Marymount, Grambling State, and South Dakota, Penn scored a total of just 17 points on sub-30% field goal shooting, while also hitting just 1 of 9 three-point attempts. But since Big Ten play started against Illinois on December 28th, Penn has become a volume scorer on the offensive end for Terry Morton's squad. Through 6 conference games, the Louisville native has scored in double figures in every contest, highlighted by a 21-point performance on 7 of 10 shooting against Wisconsin and a 17-point outing which saw Penn hit 7 of 12 field goals in a win over a ranked Michigan State team. In those 2 games, Penn also connected on 6 of her 7 attempts from beyond the arc. In all, the sophomore has averaged roughly 15 points per game, which is 4 more points than her output during the non-conference season. Penn has also seen her three-point percentage raise by about 10 points to 44% in league play and is turning the ball over roughly 1 time less per contest. If Jalen Penn can continue the strong start to league play, as well as be more efficient at scoring the basketball on a consistent basis, the former 5-star recruit can help lead the Hoosiers not just back into the NCAA tournament, but to make a run in it this March as well. Michael, back to you.
Thanks, Jack. All right, guys, it's time for Make Your Case. The rules are simple. I give you a statement, you pick a side. Sometimes I'll tell you what side to pick, and you make your case as to why or why not that is true or what you believe. Griffin, we'll start with you. The MVP of this team, but I'm not letting you pick Ali Patberg because she leads the team in almost every statistical category. So outside of Ali Patberg, the MVP has been who?
I'm going straight to Bendu Yaney. I think defensively, she's an extremely great on-ball defender. The intensity she brings to the offense and the fact that when an Ali Patberg or a Wise aren't hitting their shots, she and Jalen Penn can kind of come in as second or third options and really provide a team the boost they need. Not to mention, she's so fast in her ability to drive to the hoop and find an open teammate. Her basketball IQ is through the roof. She's been fantastic. If it's not Ali Patberg, it's got to be her.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with Jalen Penn. I think the games where Jalen has shown how good she can be, has shown the ability of that 5-star recruit that she was, those are the games where IU seems to roll. I mean, against Wisconsin, she played so well. It seemed like no matter how much Wisconsin would try to come back, that someone would bail them out with a shot. And it was usually Jalen Penn. And especially in big games, she's hit threes. I mean, that game at UCLA, she hit the 3 that kind of daggered the game for them. So I think Patberg has easily been the MVP. But aside from her, I'd go with Jalen Penn.
Yeah, I'm going to start with the freshman, Alexa Golby, just because her free throw shooting percentage is through the roof. And that's when you have so many games that IU has played that have been down to the wire, every shot counts. And with her, I think she just has what it takes. She's only a freshman, and she's just only going to go up from here.
Who's been the most important glue piece to this team so far?
See, I'm going to have to agree with Griffin. Bendu Yaney, I think she's so strong. She has such a strong mentality, and she knows the game, like you said. She's down low. She can shoot down low. She can shoot outside the paint. Anything that you want her to do, she can do. And she comes into every game, I feel like, energized, excited to be there. She wants her teammates to feel the same way. She's definitely a leader, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Brenna Wise. I'm kind of surprised none of us mentioned her as the MVP outside of Pepper, but I think that goes to show how kind of overlooked she's been just because she's just been so consistent. I mean, she doesn't get too high in certain moments or too low in certain moments. So I think her play to just kind of be level-headed, keep the team going where it is, going back to what you said about Gulbe, Wise is shooting over 91% from free throw as well, which has been huge. So a piece like that, with a team like IU that kind of goes on those scoring droughts, you need someone that's a consistent shooter that's going to knock down a shot when you need it, and that's what I think Brenna Wise brings to the team.
You know, I like to say, when I think of a glue piece, I think of somebody that the team is this without them, the team is up here with them. And for me, that's going back to Kim Royster. I think her ability to, when she's playing down low strong, and when she's gaining ability, when she's hitting shots, like I said, this team can be near unstoppable. They're ranked 25 right now. They looked like they're 45 last night. I think with her playing at her best ability, I think this team is a top 15, if not maybe even, dare I say, top 10 team in the nation. When she's firing on all cylinders, this team can be dangerous.
That's high praise. Top 10 is high
A
praise.
very deep team overall. I mean, there's
Yeah.
so many players on this team that contribute in different ways.
Yeah, there are. Basically, everyone that you said for the last 2 rounds, I don't disagree with any of that. You named 5 different people. But Griffin, you mentioned that game against Northwestern on Wednesday where nothing seemed to go right. What exactly is this team's kryptonite, if there is one?
I mean, it's so hard because it's so hard to be consistent with shooting, but it's got to be shooting. I mean, you can't come out versus Wisconsin and start off with like a Jalen Penn 4 for 4 and then have 3 starters go combined 0 of 16 to start last night. You know, that's going to hurt you any night of the week. You got to be more consistent shooting. And I don't know if it's a routine with shoot around. I don't know if it's a, type of game on what day. But that's been their real Achilles heel this season, and that's been killing them down the stretch.
Yeah, I think yesterday or against Northwestern's, one thing that specifically hurt them was rebounding. And a team that likes to push the floor, I mean, more likes to push the tempo so much, is you got to be able to grab that board, get it to your guard, and go. And IU wasn't able to do that because every rebound seemed to be getting tipped. No one could come down with it. So an offense that wants to go high tempo like that, you need to have your bigs grab that board and push out to get going. Otherwise, it's going to slow your offense down. It's going to let the defense get set. And for a team that necessarily isn't the best shooting team, that's a problem.
Yeah, and Stefan, you mentioned it earlier, but turnovers. They really need to cut down on their turnovers because a lot of the times the opposing teams do score points off of them. So if they just kind of keep those down, and like you said, 15, Terry Morin, setting that, it's a high turnover amount in my opinion. But they can get those down. I think that's what's going to help them.
15 is high.
Yeah.
It's time for the lightning round. We have a strict 10-second rule on the lightning round that is going to be heavily enforced this season, and you do not want to know what happens if you do not follow it. Griffin, I'm looking right at you here. The first question, can this team win the Big Ten, yes or no?
Yes, it's going to be hard, though. You have to play some of the best teams in the country. Michigan State, Maryland, et cetera. Will be tough, but there's still a possibility.
Yeah, I would agree. I'll say yes, just because I think all the teams in the Big Ten are very evenly spread out.
I got to say no, just because I think Rutgers is going to get up there, and I don't know if they have the grit, determination to do it, but I'm hopeful.
There's some good players across the Big Ten, too. How much of a lock are they at this point in time right now to make the NCAA tournament?
I think they're a lock. I think if they keep playing with the determination that they have, they'll be good.
Yeah, kind of like you mentioned at the top of the show, is as long as they play average from here, they should be able to make it. So I'm pretty confident that they're a lock for the tournament.
Same here. I feel as if they continue to go and keep playing their game the way they can, they should be good.
Have they peaked yet?
It's so tough to say. I don't want to say yes, but I'm also not going to say no because there's still a lot of you can watch this team's best game, and there's still a slimmer that thinks they can do better.
Yeah, I'm going to say no, they haven't peaked just because turnovers, shooting, rebounding, they haven't pieced it all together in one game yet. So once they do, that'll be their peak.
Yeah, no, I don't think they've peaked. They can easy fixes. They have a tough schedule coming up, but as long as the puzzle pieces work, they'll be good.
Griffin not going with yes and no, but going with not yes and also not no.
Sometimes you got to bend the rules to make it your way, you know?
All right, well, I'll toss it right back to the hot hand. It's time for last word. What is your final word, one word on the IU women's basketball season thus far?
Hyphenated here, high expectations. I'm
Rule
going to make
bender.
it because
You can't stretch
Rule
the rule
bender extraordinaire.
twice.
here's the reason though, because this team, we have seen what they can do. Like Stefan just said it perfectly. We've seen them on hot shooting nights but bad rebounding nights. We've seen them on great rebounding nights but slow shooting nights. If they can piece it all together and do it in one game as a unit, this team is going to be so good, we can't even explain it yet. So once that clicks, it'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I'll say optimism is the word for this team. I mean, like we mentioned, there's a lot of flaws to the team, but every team has flaws in January, and that'll be fine. If they can piece it all together, I think there's a lot of potential with this team, so fans should be very optimistic.
I'm going to go with resilient just because they've gone through a lot of changes within the past few years, and I think they've just been given such a platform to be on top, and they've really shown that they are capable of it.
Yeah, it's odd to see this team, given the change they went through, go through growing pains right now as opposed to in November and early December. Well, thank you guys for joining me. That's the end of the show. That does it for the show. Be sure to continue the discussion on our Twitter page at IUSTV Sports and on Facebook at IUSTV Sports. You can always give any suggestions for the show and ask any questions that you might have. Toss it up. Find out if we'll catch it. We'll see you next time.